We're going to do a quick review of one of my main crop gardens. It's close to being 15 feet by 15 feet square. It's surrounded by a 1 by 1 inch mesh fence to keep the rabbits and some of the other critters out. Actually, woodchucks are probably the worst critter around here. Woodchuck, a rabbit, it'll come in and it'll just browse a little bit and hop and browse a little bit more. A woodchuck will walk right down a row and eat every single plant. So we got these fencing up to keep the critters out. And I'm going to start here in the corner. We have a kiwi plant growing. You can see the kiwis here growing on the plant. So this kiwi plant is coming out of the main crop garden, and I'm training it to go over the horizontal trellis. Horizontal trellis are a way that we can utilize paths. We can turn them into growing systems. Normally you got a path and there's nothing growing in that path. So now I've got this overhead horizontal trellis, and I'm going to be harvesting kiwis off it. I also have a grapevine on their side I'm going to let grow into this system here. So if we lower our camera here and go along the first bed, we have a ground cherry here. We have a couple of flowers. I have a borage. We like borages because they attract beneficial pollinators. I have a couple of honey nut squash in here. I have a Ship Nova on an aronia plant growing. We have bush cherries. These are bush cherries that are designed to ripen later in the year. Birds don't eat red fruit later in the year, so I'll keep them off of that. And then we have a number of kohlrabi here mixed in, and here we have another bush cherry. We have a stinging nettle growing. I like stinging nettles because I make compost out of them. We have some black raspberries. There's 2 currant bushes here growing with a blackberry, and actually I found they grow pretty good together. They must be some type of companion plants. So we're coming back here to the fence. I have a red Reliance seedless grape on the middle fence. We have blackberries. Let me show you one of these blackberries. Oh my God. Oh, I didn't pick them today and now they're getting overripe. Oh yes. Yes, yes, yes. Look at this. Look at these blackberries on the fence here. These are monsters. Right here. Main crop garden number 1. Then our second bed here. I'm cheating time. I've got leeks and kohlrabis growing together. I've been harvesting the kohlrabis, and in the beginning the kohlrabis were kind of suppressing the leeks because I planted them as just real tiny little plants. And now as I've thinned them out, the leeks are coming up through and they're starting to grow. So by the time I have all the kohlrabis harvested, now our bed of leeks are going to be ready to be harvested. And the leeks, they'll last, even the kohlrabis too, they'll last through a couple of frosts. And on the end here we have cilantro growing. I've got a pear tree that I'm keeping very tightly pruned. And I got an experiment going on with this pear tree here I should tell you about. It's a 2D tree. I haven't let any branches grow out in any direction other than east and west. It's just an east and west tree. And it's pruned like an espalier where they would put it up against a fence. And what I'm experimenting with is, do I get enough sunlight on the bed below to grow? What I'm actually growing is peach seedlings in it. I want to grow seedlings in that row. The seedlings really don't like to have a lot of sunlight. They want sunlight, but they don't want a full day of sun. They're kind of like babies, Would you leave a baby out in the sun all day? No, you wouldn't. So we want to do the same thing with the seedlings. We want to kind of shade them a little bit. This is just enough shade. It's letting them get enough sun where they're thriving, but they're also shading, especially during the heat of the day. If you think about the sun, when it comes up in the morning and it sets in the evening, there's a lot of insolation where the radiation has to go through a lot more atmosphere, so it's a weaker sun. And when you go from 10 o'clock to 2 o'clock, there's a lot less atmosphere that it has to go through, so it's a lot more intense. And that's when this espalier pear tree is giving these peach seedlings shade. Then we go to the next bed over here. We got some stinging nettle in the way, so we'll move this over a little bit. The next bed is a mixture of potatoes and peppers and tomatoes. And on the end cap, on both of these two beds here, this is the bed with the peach seedlings. On the end, we have a yacon and a kohlrabi growing. It's the first time I grew those together. I'm not saying that it's doing very good. The yacon's doing very good, but the kohlrabi is. And then I got the same thing on this end cap, kohlrabi and yacon. Here the yacon's doing better. And I also have a couple of castor bean plants. Those are to repel voles. And got a lot of problems with voles here too, eating potatoes. We've got the castor plants mixed in with the potatoes and the tomatoes. Then I have hot peppers in the back here. I'm thinking those might repel voles too. I don't know, it's an experiment. Then in the back corner here we have our seedless reliance is just taken over, and it is just loaded with grapes. You can see this, look at just a monster load of grapes it's gonna have. I'll take the camera off the pedestal, so I'll walk around here a little bit. There in the back, we have blackberries, and we have more bush cherries. And in the corner we have kiwi and gooseberries and currants. We have an apple tree that I paid a lot of money for. It's got a weird name. There's a Japanese plum tree over here in this corner. So it's part of my plan to kind of transition all my main crop gardens into more perennial based growing systems than annual. Boy, just look at this. I'm eating way too many blackberries. So I'll take this off the pedestal now. And we'll kind of go around real close. Here again we have the kiwis. See them growing on the vine here. And I think there's a currant or a gooseberry in here. So there's a gooseberry. It's not doing so well in the shade, but that's okay. We'll see what happens. We have ground cherries here. This is a ground cherry. You see it's got a yellow berry. They're really sweet when they're yellow. So we got a few wild plants growing here. There's a catnip. That attracts a lot of pollinators when they're flowering. Here's a borage. Same thing. Here's a lupine. It's a nitrogen fixer. This is a Shipnova. It's on a aronia. There's a tag there. Here we have our bush cherries ripening. These cherries only get to be about 4 or 5 feet tall. Here we have that stinging nettle. I actually cut these up and use them for either compost tea or I use them for compost. Here we have some, this is a rogue Jerusalem artichoke. I'll probably be clipping that off of there. Those can take over a little bit. This is a black raspberry plant. And I've been experimenting with black raspberries and blackberries, and I've read that if you cross-pollinate a raspberry into a blackberry, the blackberry doesn't taste very well. It's kind of bitter and tart. But the black raspberries blossom a little bit different timing than the blackberries, so I haven't had that problem. All the blackberries are coming out very, very, very well. We have black currants under here. You see, there's one right there. So the black currants are growing pretty well in the shade of the blackberries, kind of companion plants. This seedless reliance on this side is a little bit weak. But oh, there's some elderberries here. Forgot about that. This is actually a bird planted elderberry here in the corner. It's actually a pretty big plant. It's growing on the sun side of the main crop garden number 2. So here we have our blackberries. Just look at these things. There's just a lot of them. I didn't pick enough of them here. Look at all the fruit flies here. gonna have to pick a bunch of these and wash them up. I didn't get at it today. Here we have cilantro. And in here we have leeks. Here's a leek plant. We have kohlrabi. These are Cossack kohlrabis. They are pretty good at repelling slugs. The slugs are just hammering them every night. But all they do is really scar the kohlrabi. They don't affect the inside at all. And these kohlrabis are really sweet. I've grown them as large as 12 pounds. And they haven't lost any of their sweetness at 12 pounds, and they're just as tender as can be on the inside. Oh, here's another thing I didn't mention before is I've got this pear tree that I spaliered. You've learned about the test, but I also put a tomato plant right on its roots. Tomatoes and fruit trees get along really well. So now I got this tomato plant that I'm growing along with the pear tree. And the pear does have some fruit this year for the first time. That's cool. So I'm utilizing that pear tree as a trellis for tomatoes. So this is again my kohlrabi and my leeks, and I'm cheating time here. You know, normally people put in one crop and they won't plant another one until they harvested the entire crop. Well, here I'm harvesting the kohlrabi, and at the point at which I'm really getting these thinned out, I'm going to start to harvest leeks. Here's my yacon, and here's another kohlrabi. This one's really doing really well. These are Siberian sea peach seedlings that are growing into the clover. And our tomato here in the end, getting just a little bit of sun, and it's growing. There'll be a yield. Here I have these are Hershey honey locust seedlings here, and here. You see, and you're going to need to thin out the clover here a little bit. Kind of shading them out probably a little too much. Then these in the back here are the Siberian seeds that were doing the best. They're actually in these long pots, so they'll be easier to transplant this fall. Here we have a mullein growing in our main crop garden, #1. Another pollinator attractor. Just look at these grapes. Just look at all that. This Reliance grapevine here is just a prolific one. It does that every year. Huge amount. I mean, this whole corner is just loaded with grapes. And there's also some blackberries growing in here too. So then we're looking at our next bed. I got a Japanese plum tree nursing in here. And you can see here's a potato and here's a tomato growing with it. There's another tomato, another potato. Ooh, look at it. Potato that produced a berry. That's kind of interesting. Those are either purple Peruvian or Desirees. And here we got another yacon, castor bean plant, and the kohlrabi. In this corner we got more blackberries. This is that special apple tree, and yeah, I don't know, I can't find a tag. Paid like 35 bucks for it. And more blackberries here. Coming up, new one. I got a little. This was actually my original stand of stinging nettles, and since I've been kind of transplanting them around in different spots. But nettles are a mineral accumulator. They have a pretty long list of important minerals, and that's why I let them grow where I'm using them for compost. Comfrey is the same thing, and here's a comfrey plant in this little garden here. Tansy. I like tansy because it repels mosquitoes and flies. I know there's some currants and gooseberries in here somewhere. Oh, here's the gooseberry right here. That's a gooseberry right there. I know they're in here somewhere. And back in here I got more kiwis growing. Here it is, right here. You can see kiwis next to the grapes right there. We aren't going to get a great picture. It's getting nigh on sunset here. And then we also have an old line European main crop vegetable, and it's right here. These are called skirret. And I actually have had these 2 years now, and they taste really nice when it's when the frost first leaves the ground. That's when you harvest these, and they're really nice and sweet then. They're kind of a parsnip tasting vegetable. They're a long root. There, get it out of the way. So all this that you've just seen, and here's another comfrey plant. Have to be growing comfrey. It also serves as a ground cover and a mulch. When it starts to degrade a little bit, you can see it gets a little funny with its leaves, or it's getting a little brown, maybe a little moldy. That's when I'll pick it and use it as mulch over the beds. So that's just one main crop garden. I've got 6 of them in the yard here, and then after the sixth one actually is utilized as a compost making area in the spring, and then I transition it into a main crop garden. That's a very interesting one. I got circle beds testing in that right now. God, there's so much growing in there you can't even see the ground anymore. But anyways, I got 6 main crop gardens right now, and then that transitions into a hazelnut fruit tree experimental area, and then that transitioned into a little prototype food forest, and then it transitions into a forest garden where things are a little more organized. Then that transitions into a pawpaw patch way in the back. So that's my whole property is 333 feet, and I'm utilizing 66 feet by 200 feet. That's what I just described to you from my main crop gardens all the way back to the pawpaw patch. And then we have our kitchen garden up front, which is just productive like crazy. Basically because I'm making my own homemade compost here on site. I got a lot of videos up front, so check them out. Anyways, I just wanted to make that video. I've got a little bit of motivation. This urban farmer Curtis Stone comes up with this video about what permaculture is, and I'll be nice and weak about his market garden. Well, there's a whole lot of comments now on a rebuttal video that I made about Curtis Stone's video about why permaculture doesn't work, sort of thing. Ooh, what am I stepping on here? Oh, there's a mosquito. But anyways, I made this rebuttal video about what permaculture isn't or is. I claimed that Curtis Stone made a straw man argument, and he did. And I'm going to explain it, try to explain it a little bit better, in that he's taken these singular elements or singular methods and claimed them to be permaculture, and then took these singular methods and explained why they don't work in his market garden setting. Well, permaculture isn't about singular methods. Matter of fact, the founder, Bill Mollison, he went on to make a statement about there really isn't anything new in terms of all these singular methods. Most all of this has been discovered and tried. What permaculture is new about, or what it does, or what it is, it's about design. It's about the ecological sciences. It's about figuring out what the land wants to do. You know, where's the sunlight? Where are the prevailing winds? What kind of soil is it? There are a lot of these questions that need to be answered before you can figure out which of these singular elements may work, and how these singular elements can be put together where they can help each other. So anyhow, this is what motivated me to make a short video here about one little market garden that I have. So I hope this inspires somebody. It inspires me. I come out here and I'm eating on it every day, and there's no end to it. I mean, I'm many of these things I'm producing or growing way more food than I can eat, and I'm having 3 meals a day on this right now. Other than meat, I don't have a meat component to this backyard. The city has some strict rules on animals, so I decided just not to test any of those rules. But I do hunt and fish, so a lot of our meat are this wild component that I'm going out and bringing in. So, but our vegetables, we're not buying any vegetables. We're not buying any fruit. And I'm eating way more than I should of both of these things right now, I think. I'm gaining some weight. So anyhow, I appreciate you watching. Thanks a lot.